Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah and day 7 of the Halloween Craft Countdown, where I'm sharing a brand new spooky themed craft project every day for 20 days. Today's project is more kind of autumn or fall themed rather than super scary Halloween, but it's still definitely a fun project to make. And it is this pumpkin shaker card. We've got lots of different segments in here that you can fill with sequins or glitter or whatever you want to put in there. I've actually used some sprinkles that is supposed to be for cakes, but I thought it looks really well inside the card too. This uses foam to make the border so that there's enough gap in there to add your middles, and then we've got acetate on the front to keep everything in place and give you a lovely window into the card. So what are you waiting for? Let's find out how to make this lovely pumpkin shaker card. Let's get started. The files for this project are free for the next 24 hours. Here's how to download them. Register a free ticket for the Halloween Craft Countdown at craftwithsarah.com/HCC25. After registering, you'll get an email which contains a link to the schedule page for the countdown. Visit the schedule page to find and download today's files. Each download is only available for free for 24 hours after it goes live. If you've missed some, check out the Instant Access bundle at craftwithsarah.com/HCC25 bundle, which gives immediate and ongoing access to all of the files from the Halloween Craft Countdown, plus loads of extra bonus designs. Or purchase just this design at craftwithsarah.com/products. To find the designs from this countdown, click into the Occasions filter and choose Halloween. The designs will appear here each day once they become available to buy. The download comes in a zip folder. You need to unzip this before uploading the SVG files into Cricut Design Space. To make this shaker card, you'll need the following: some funky foam or fun foam. It doesn't matter what colour you've got really, because you'll only be able to see it on the sides. However, as it is a pumpkin, if you've got orange, white or black, or possibly even green, that would look best. This is a red sheet, so none of those colours, but it's the only one that I had that still had the label on to be able to show you what one it is. So this one, I got it, I think, in the range in the UK, or I might have got it online, but they do sell it on Amazon in packs of lots of different colours. It's about 2mm thick, which means that the Cricut can cut it. You will need a special blade to be able to cut it with your Cricut machine though. If you're using one of the Explore models or the Maker models, then you can use a deep point blade, which is this black blade here. It's a little bit deeper and stronger than the regular blades that come in your machine. If you've got one of the Maker models, then you could also use the knife point blade. This is the blade that looks like a little scalpel in there, and this works the best for fun foam. It gives you lovely smooth cuts, and it doesn't kind of drag on the foam. It's just really nice. It cuts it like butter. So if you have a Maker and a knife blade, that is the ultimate one to choose. But if you've got the deep point blade, that one works too. However, I did find when I was using this on a Maker 3, it was kind of dragging, and it ripped in a few places. Now that's not really a problem, because if your border rips, let's take a look at one of them. This is the shape we'll be cutting out from foam. If it does tear on any of these corners where it's thin, it doesn't matter too much, because you can just glue them down and glue in any gaps and it will be fine. So don't worry if it doesn't come out perfectly. If you don't have either of those blades, or if you're using a Cricut Joy Extra or a Cricut Joy and you don't have the option to use either of those blades, then what you can do instead is cut the foam layers from cardstock, and then you can use it as a template to draw around on your fun foam and then cut it manually with a craft knife. Or what you could do, which I'll show you when we get to the design space section, is you could turn this layer into a pen layer, a draw layer, and have it draw the shape onto your fun foam, and then you could cut that out with scissors or a craft knife manually. So there's lots of choices. If you don't have either the deep point or the knife blade, not the end of the world, you can still make the project. You'll also need some acetate to go over the front of the shaker. Super hard to show you acetate on camera because obviously it's clear. You can kind of see it here. So this is quite thin acetate, but it doesn't matter. It can be thick, it can be thin, it can be medium. We're using it as the cover to make sure none of the glitter or other bits escape. And this can be cut with a standard blade that comes in your machine. I tend to use the craft board setting for cutting acetate. There is an acetate specific setting in Design Space, but I find that never ever cuts through. So craft board seems to work really nicely for me. But of course, you might need to play about with your particular settings to find one that works for you. You'll also need some glue. I'm using Barely Art glue, but I also like Kalal. The reason I like these glues is they don't bend or wrinkle the card like some glues can do. You'll need cardstock in 2 shades of orange, 2 shades of green, and a white. And then finally, you'll need something to go in your shaker. It could be glitter, it could be sequins, it could be little beads, anything you like. I'm actually using cake decorations. So I bought these because I loved the colours. That's so Halloween-y. I got it on Amazon. It wasn't very much money. It was a couple of pounds, I think. But I thought these would be perfect for the shaker card. It's all little tiny sugar balls and they'll go in there nicely. There's a nice range of sizes and shapes. Well, not shapes, it's all spheres, but sizes, I guess, and colours, and that will look really nice and add a little bit of extra colour inside. But anything you've got should be fine. So that's what you'll need to make the card. You'll also need the download, so don't forget to go ahead and get that downloaded to your computer. And then here's how to format the card and get everything ready in Cricut Design Space. Once you've downloaded and unzipped the folder, it's time to get the SVG file into Cricut Design Space. Open up Design Space and start a new project, then press Upload over on the left, and then Upload Image. You can then either click Browse to find the file on your computer, or drag and drop it in. Make sure you choose the unzipped version of the folder, and within there, look in the 01 Cricut version folder. If you're using a Silhouette or a Scanning Cat, head to craftwithsarah.com/help to see which files to use with your machine. I'm going to go in 01 Cricut version, and there's a file in there that starts SVG-01 in the file name. Click and drag it in, and this is what we end up with. Press Continue, and then Upload. Now it looks super weird at the moment because you've got this blue layer under the pumpkin, but don't worry, I'm going to explain it all to you. You can close out this window on the left by clicking the arrow. The file should load in at 10.834, bit of a weird size, but bear with me, inches wide and 5.75 inches tall. It will end up being 5.75 by 5.75 when the card is actually made. The reason the width is a little bit less is that in order to have the score line, the white layer at the bottom cuts off some of the edge of the pumpkin. Let's see what we've got. You can ungroup the layers by clicking the Ungroup button at the top of the Layers panel. We've got this orange piece here and a darker orange. This will go on the front of the card. The blue will be cut from our acetate. The pink will be cut from craft foam, and I've got 2 of these because one wasn't quite thick enough to be able to get all my little decorations inside the pumpkin, so I'll be stacking one on top of the other. Then there's the lighter orange that will go inside underneath all the embellishments in the shaker card. This is the base card, and you can see what I mean here about having to have a solid line down here so it can be folded. And then we've got the 2 bits of cardstock to make up the stalk. If you've got a scoring wheel or stylus for your Cricut, you can add a score line down the card front to make it easier to fold. To do that, go into Shapes and choose a score line. And then I'm going to move it roughly into the middle and just about where the start of that is, and then drag it down to go over the bottom. Drag a box around both of those and press Align Center horizontally to make sure your score line's exactly in the middle. And then down the bottom of the Layers panel, press Attach. Attach is what tells the Cricut where to do the scoring. I mentioned at the start of this video that if you don't have a knife blade or a deep point blade for your Cricut, then you can either cut these from cardstock and use them as a template to draw around on your craft foam, or you can draw directly on the craft foam and then cut it out with your scalpel, your craft knife, or your scissors. If you're going to do that, click on the pink designs and change them from Operation to Pen. It doesn't matter what pen you choose, you could just leave it as the default, and you'll need to do that twice because you need 2 separate versions. So if you did this, then when you loaded your foam into the Cricut machine, it will only draw this onto the foam itself with the pen. It won't actually do any cutting, which is great if you don't have one of those special blades. You might need to tell the Cricut that you're doing it on craftboard or some other setting that doesn't require a specialty blade, otherwise it might get confused that you haven't put one in. You might find that the pen ink smudges a little bit on the craft foam, so if you are finding that, then it would be easier just to cut them from cardstock, and then you can draw around them yourself on your foam using a pencil or some other kind of pen that won't smudge as easily. Remember, blue, acetate, pink is foam, everything else is cardstock. When you're ready to make the card, press Make over on the top right and that will separate out all the pieces for you. You can change the paper size in the drop down here, and you can move things about if you want to. So go ahead, get all of your pieces looking as you want them to, press Continue to connect to your Cricut and get everything cut out. To make the card, first fold your base card down the score line and fold it backwards like this so that the side with the stalk on will be the front of the card and it's got the stalk going off to the left. You'll notice that it's got a straight line down, which is where we folded it, so we need to cover that over to make the full size of the pumpkin, and that is where this filled in layer comes. So we're going to glue this on top and then the front will look like that whole pumpkin rather than having the side cut off. It's easiest to add the glue directly to the base card so that you don't accidentally put any, if you're putting it on the back of there, you might accidentally put some where there's not going to be any card underneath. So I'll add mine straight onto the base card. Line it up so it matches mostly with that white apart from that overlap bit. And that's what it'll look like from behind. It opens up. Just like that. Next up, glue your foam pieces on top. And we're going to put them one on top of the other to give more room for all of the embellishments. If you're using just glitter, you could probably get away with one. Now, because we don't want any glitter or whatever it is that you're using to escape, it's important to add your glue in an unbroken line down all of the bits of the foam. If you leave any broken bits where there's no glue, that potentially gives an area for your embellishments to escape. The stalk doesn't matter because that won't have any bits in it, but all the bits around the side will. Now this depends a little bit on the size of the embellishments you're putting inside. Mine are quite big. I'm not using glitter, so I could get away with some little gaps and that would be okay. If you're using glitter though, that definitely needs unbroken lines of glue. We all know how glitter loves to get everywhere that it shouldn't be. If your foam had ripped in any places, then you can glue any ripped bits back together too. You don't want any gaps where it did rip, otherwise that's another escape point. There's that one. Oops, I pushed down a little bit too firmly there and my glue's escaping a little, but that's fine. We can wait for it to dry before the embellishments go in. And then if you are using both of the bits of foam, glue the other one on top. Again, we want another unbroken line of glue all the way around those edges. You might need to wiggle them about a bit to get them exactly on top of each other in all of the different bits. And next up, leave this to dry completely. You can see some of my glue is smushed out in a few places. So if I was to try and add my embellishments now, it's going to stick, they're all going to stick to the glue and not be moving inside of my card. So I'm going to leave this about 10-15 minutes, get the glue really, really dry, and then come back to finish off the card. My card is now mostly dry, and I've put all of my little cake decorations into a ramekin. A small bowl would be fine. I'm going to put them in with a spoon just to make it a little bit easier to get the sizes I want. I'm not going to use the really big bits like this because not only will they be too thick for my foam, but those particular ones in this is, it's got chocolate in the middle on the big one, so I don't want it to melt inside my card. The little ones is just sugar balls, so they'll be fine. And just put some in here. I thought it would be easier to do with a spoon because then I can make sure I'm only getting the little bits rather than the bigger ones. You could put different embellishments in each of the segments. You could use maybe a different coloured glitter for each of them or something like that, which would be nice. When you're adding all your bits in, make sure nothing comes out higher than the tops of your foam. Otherwise, the acetate cover won't fit on. I want some of these little tiny ones. I'm picking up everything apart from the size that I want. I'm trying to work out if I want some more in the middle or if that's okay. I think we could maybe do a few more in there. You don't want to completely fill it because otherwise it won't have room to move about. I think that should be just fine. And I don't think those bigger ones are coming out higher than the top. Sort of putting my hand over it and I can't feel them coming out from the top of the foam, so that's okay. And despite trying to be careful, I've got little bits of that everywhere. Typical. Alright, so that's those. Now we can glue the acetate on top. And just like with the foam, you need to make sure there's no unbroken lines of your glue around any of the sides, otherwise your little pieces will be able to escape. The stalk, as before, is fine because that doesn't have any bits in it. Place your acetate on quite gently, as you don't want the glue to smush out into any areas where it would then be visible. But do make sure you've still got your unbroken lines. That looks fine. Next up, we'll glue the stalk on top, starting with the light green piece. And then the dark green piece on top. Then finally is this cardstock bit to go on the top to hide all of that glue. I will still be able to see some of mine, you can see it poking out, but it dries clear, so it won't be a problem. This time you don't need to worry about the unbroken lines because everything's already sealed up. After you've glued this bit on, don't pick up your card for probably at least half an hour because the glue on the acetate will take a really long time to dry because it's on plastic and you don't want to move it while that glue isn't dry because if there are any bits that have come out the sides, then your little embellishments will stick to it and you'll glue them to the front of the acetate rather than having them available to move about and shake freely. I know it's tempting, you want to pick it up and shake it straight away, I get it, but don't because you'll regret it. Okay, so that's that one on there. Now I need to play the waiting game with my card for that glue to fully dry. I hope that you enjoyed this video on how to make this pumpkin shaker card for your Halloween greetings cards. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more Halloween crafts and Cricut fun. I hope to see you again tomorrow for day 8 of the Halloween craft countdown, but for now, thank you so much for watching. Bye!